If you're anything like me, a new year always represents new opportunities, right? A new opportunity to reinvent yourself and change your life by implementing all of these amazing New Year's resolutions. But if you're also anything like me, a new year and all of the resolutions that come with it can also be a profound obstacle, because focusing too hard on these resolutions or setting unrealistic expectations can lead really quickly to a profound disappointment in yourself, your lack of achievement, and creative burnout by just setting all these unrealistic expectations, not being able to follow through. And so, unlike a few weeks ago where I posted a video about planning, I want my first video 2022 to be about creative burnout and the 4 things that I found that are the direct causes of burnout and how you can avoid them. So the first main cause of burnout is going to sound like just stupidly intuitive, but it is just working too hard. Someone would like to say hello. Oh, shoot. Okay, if you're gonna be here, you have to sit. That is the rule. We decided to sit. Okay. Social media and the algorithms really reward us for posting constantly, for becoming a content machine and just trying to churn out content as often as humanly possible. And hustle culture, or society in general, and a lot of social media gurus try to convince you that this is actually necessary for success, that you have to sacrifice a lot in order to become successful, and that isn't true, first of all, and it also just is not sustainable in the long term. And if you want to create a foundation for a brand or a business that will serve you over the course of your entire career, you have to challenge your perceived notions of productivity and try as much as you can to avoid this hustle culture mentality where you have to post constantly, because I really do think that it is very detrimental to your mental health. So my cat has decided that he would also like to be part of the video, so this is the new camera angle, but I experienced like this hustle culture mentality firsthand when I tried Vlogmas in December. So for a huge chunk of December, I was challenging myself to post 3 times a week. Normally I post once a week, maybe twice a week, so 3 times a week was a pretty big shift for me, and I had a lot of other stuff going on in my life at the time, so it was actually very stressful. And while I'm proud of the work that I did during those few weeks, it really left me feeling exhausted and burnt out. And the fact of the matter is, some of the videos that I made during that time were successful in terms of social media metrics, but I don't think it was worth the feeling that I had after, of like just this deep exhaustion that I couldn't shake. And so I took the past 2 weeks off just because, oh yes, hello, I love you too. Yes, you're very good. So I took the past 2 weeks off to rest and relax and remind myself that I have lots of things that I am excited to do and all of these creative inspirations that I had to find again, because after those few weeks I really just felt exhausted and overworked, and I tried to film more videos during that time period, but whenever I sat down to film or even just put my brush on the canvas, it didn't feel right. And so I had to take those 2 weeks off and really take that break. And I think we overlook breaks and procrastination as sort of this non-productive period, right? Like, we can't be productive when we're taking breaks. That's sort of like, the two don't work. They're just like not compatible definition wise, but I think in reality, breaks can actually be far more productive than active working time if you use them correctly. So a few weeks ago, I was trying to rework my website, and revamping my website is something that's been on my to-do list for months, actually the better part of a year, if I'm being totally honest with you. And it was just this thing that I'd been trying to redesign many times. I was just really frustrated by the whole thing, and I just couldn't figure out a way to make it work. But I just opened the design file and just like let it open and let the problem sort of percolate in the back of my mind while I did just menial tasks, like played with my cat, who is lovely and I love you so much, and did the dishes, cleaned the stove, even played my favorite video game that I've been playing since high school, City Skylines. And at the time, I just didn't think that any of the breaks that I was taking were productive. But when I sat back at my desk and I started working on the project again, I found that actually all of that time that I had spent taking a break, where I had just let the problem sit in the back of my mind, sort of thinking about it a little bit. When I sat back down to work on it again, I was much more productive than I had been before, and I had these vital breakthroughs that I probably never would have had I just kept trying to push through the problem and keep working. And the next thing that can lead to creative burnout is setting unrealistic expectations. I think in general, when we set goals or New Year's resolutions, we are often expecting ourselves to be at peak performance all of the time, when that is not really sustainable or actually even possible. Life just gets in the way. It kind of has a habit of doing that. And peak performance me might be able to post on YouTube every single week or draw every single day, but I might not really be able to do that. I might have things that come up. I might get sick. I might have a family member that gets sick. I might have to like just drop everything and move somewhere out of the blue. I might have these things that just happen to me that I can't really control, that I might not be able to overcome. And my mental health might get in the way of me achieving this goal. And I think when we set really stretch goals, that can be a motivating factor. It can, but if we're not able to live up to that, if we're not able to achieve that, that same stretch goal that was originally a big motivator can become an incredibly demotivating force. Just like looking at your habit tracker in your bullet journal, or just like looking at the fact that you haven't been able to be where you want to be in whatever you're trying to achieve, that can have like almost a paralytic effect. It can really stop you from accepting the fact that you didn't achieve that, but that you can still work forward, that you can still become better than you were before, that it's still possible to contribute to that goal and eventually reach your end state, but maybe at a later date than you originally intended. And as a result, I like to sort of set my goals somewhere along this spectrum. So on one end, you have like the goal that like is so easy to achieve, like you might as well just not set it because you know you're gonna do it anyway. You know that if you put in at least like just a little bit of work that you're going to achieve this goal, it is very easy, it's not a stretch. Whereas on this side, you have like almost like an impossible goal, like it's doable, but like sort of just barely. You'd have to just put in an incredible amount of effort, probably put a lot of the rest of your life on the back burner in order to achieve this goal. And I think in this spectrum, I like to have my goal just like somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle is a sweet spot for goals and New Year's resolutions because it doesn't actually require like 110% of effort. It doesn't require me to be at peak performance all of the time. It is not easy, so it is still motivating. I still have to push to get there, but it won't become a really demotivating goal if I'm not able to achieve this, because it is just fundamentally more realistic. And oftentimes when I do set goals and these resolutions, I try to set like a habit or a system-based goal rather than an end state, so that implementing the habit becomes the goal, which is easier to achieve and just takes less time to really cement. Creating these resolutions and goals set around systems and habits allows you to really capitalize off of the compound interest of your efforts, which is just a very valuable thing in general. And only comparing you to your previous self helps set more realistic and healthy expectations. The third thing that can lead to creative burnout is to work primarily on things that you are not passionate about and that you don't find fulfilling. So the perception of a career as an artist is of course that you're going to spend your entire day painting, when in reality there's just a lot that goes on behind the scenes, like taxes and figuring all of that out, which is incredibly intimidating, and shipping and creating ideas and practicing and responding to emails, and a lot of that stuff is just not exciting. And the realistic thing, of course, is that whatever career you choose, there are going to be things about it that you just don't find exciting. You're going to have to do these necessary but unfulfilling tasks. But what I want to encourage you to do is try and put limits on how much these things invade your life. And that might look like setting specific days or hours of the week to things that you're not excited about, but when I do this, I try to structure my week around things that I do find exciting. So that way I have something to look forward to that helps me push through this unexciting but necessary task that I have to get done. And of course, there are also just going to be times where you're not excited about anything that you're doing, when just all of the work that you're doing feels cursed, when none of your brushstrokes sit right, when you're just not excited about anything, and that really sucks, and that's when I think you absolutely know that you need to take a break. And this last take might be kind of hot, it might be spicy hot, it might be controversial, but I think when you make your art your job, when you try and monetize your passion like this, it can't be your main hobby anymore. Because the thing about like monetizing your passion and trying to make a career doing what you love is that it's never going to quite feel the same when you start doing this to when it was just a hobby. When I paint, I'm often thinking about like, should I be filming this? Like, should I make this into a sticker or a print? And like sort of all of that stuff percolates in the back of my mind, and it doesn't feel the way that it did when I was just practicing, when I was just doing it for fun, when I was just experimenting. And I still try to incorporate these periods of experimentation into my creative practice. I still try to have fun with it, and I do that a lot on this channel to try and sort of push myself to have fun, but it doesn't feel quite the same. It just doesn't feel quite the same. I'm thinking about views, about monetization, about how can I monetize this piece of content that I am creating, be it like a video or a, you know, a painting or whatever. I'm still like mentally clocked in to work. The benefit of a 9-to-5 job is often that like you can mentally clock in and out very easily. There is like this very neat dividing line between work and not work, and that helps just separate your life just neatly in two like that, between working and not working, and so you can just mentally clock out. But when you try and monetize your passion and make like a career as an artist, it becomes much more difficult to easily mentally clock out. I'm gonna increase the brightness a little bit here. It becomes just much more difficult to easily mentally clock out, especially when you work from home like I do, when your workspace is in your home, because you can just sit down and work whenever you want. And I love what I'm doing. I'm passionate about work, I'm passionate about making videos, I love talking to you guys, but that makes it so much easier to work overtime, to clock in more hours than my boyfriend does at his full-time job, at his traditional 9-to-5. And ultimately, that results in me being exhausted, first of all, but also because I can't mentally clock out as well as someone who works a 9-to-5 can, I overwork myself, I clock in overtime, and I end up working when I should be relaxing. Like, I seldom actually have like a whole like weekend off. I often work on Saturdays and Sundays. I often just like work from like, you know, 11 to like 9 o'clock at night, and that's not sustainable, that's not good, I should not be doing that. And this is so much easier to do when art is your main hobby, when your work and the passion that you're monetizing and your hobby are all the same thing. So what I really want to recommend, and what I really sort of am trying at least to take my own advice, is to just have other hobbies that I'm also engaging in. Like, when was the last time that you read a novel, or went on a hike, or baked something from scratch? Probably maybe a while ago. I want you to remember the last time that you felt really fulfilled, that like the last notable day that you had when you did an exciting thing and you had fun and you just let loose and you felt really profoundly relaxed. And what you did during that day is probably a thing that you should find yourself doing more often, that you should make more time for. At the end of the day, productivity isn't about maximizing our output like the way that you think about it. At the end of the day, productivity is about more than just maximizing our output, about working all of the time. Life is a marathon and not a sprint, and if you want to maximize your output and increase the quality of that output over time, you have to build in periods of your life where you are doing things that you find engaging, where you are doing things that you find fulfilling, engaging with those other hobbies, making time to do stuff that you love that is outside of work, regardless of what work is, even if you like your job. When you are thinking about setting New Year's resolutions, when you're thinking about what you want this next year to look like for you, make sure that you are setting realistic expectations, accounting for breaks, and just finding time to do things other than your main job, your main passion, the thing that you want to monetize. Make sure that you are making time to engage. Make sure that you are making time to engage in those other hobbies, because they are so, so important. That is it for me in this video. This was a harder one for me to film, I think mostly because I just had taken that 2-week break, and so it was like weird being in front of the camera again for some reason. Anyway, if you are interested in seeing more content from me, there are a few exclusive videos over my Patreon, and if you hit the like button, that really does help spread this video out to more people. But yeah, that's it for me. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you in the next one. Bye guys.